So here we are again, the Sue Free Show, and I'm just sitting here with you, and I can't see your faces, but I can see some faces. I know that sounds kind of strange, but I kind of can feel you. And people are connecting with me now, and it's so awesome that they're connecting because I want to know about you. I want to connect with you. And when I'm doing business, when I'm working my business and I'm dealing with negotiation and I'm dealing with personalities and I'm dealing with all the things that I'm been put in position to deal with, I realize that, I need the Lord. I need the Lord. I need His guidance. I need Him to just direct my path. And I need Him to keep me calm. Sometimes I just have to say under my breath, just breathe, Sue, just breathe. Because so much comes at me, just like so much comes at you, and I know that. So when I was preparing for this show today, I was thinking about, Lord, what do you want to be talked about today? What is the message you want today? And I don't know all the details of what is going to happen during this hour, because that's what makes this so much fun for even me, is because the Holy Spirit gets a hold, and, I just want the message to touch you, to touch your heart, to touch your mind, and hopefully have it be a changer. Like it changes something inside of you that's going to help you. Maybe the next time somebody cuts you off on the freeway, or that just happened on the way here, and I had a choice. The subject matter today is response versus react. All right? So we do have a choice on our response and how we react to whatever comes our way. And I can tell you that for me right now, I'm really having to breathe and remind myself to breathe and remind myself, what is the goal? What is the outcome I want out of this situation? Now, if it's something simple like somebody cutting you off on the freeway, you want to be able to regroup. You want to maybe let that person know that they need to pedal a little faster. That was my point this morning. I was like, okay, can you just pedal a little faster? You're going on the ramp at 40 miles an hour, and that's really unsafe. So if you're one of those, please pedal a little faster when you're going to go on a freeway. Anyway, I had a response. I could lay on the horn. I could. I actually, got in the other lane to be safe, and I looked at who it was. And, we don't know what somebody's going through, do we? We just don't know. Until you're walking in somebody else's shoes, who are you to judge that person? And so with that, on Facebook, they had a scenario, a video that came on, and it was talking about just that, about a surgeon. And this surgeon, this father had a son who really had a car accident and was really in critical condition. And the doctor was late. And the father, being worried about his son, of course, says, "Why are you late? You need to hurry up and get in there." And the doctor just kept his composure and went in and focused on what he needed to do to help this father's son get better and assess the situation. And then he came out, and the father, again, kind of attacked him because he's like, "Why were you late? My son could have died. Why weren't you here on time?" and whatnot. And the doctor just stayed very calm and polite, and he said, "I just need to get in. I need to take care of your son and go from there." And later, after the son was fine, the doctor went in, did what he had to do, and the father found out that the doctor had left his own son's funeral to, he was called, alerted to come in to save this father's son, and he was going through the pain of loss of his own son's funeral, and he left his son's funeral to come and save the father's son's life. And he kept his composure, and I don't know, if it was you, if it was me, how would you have reacted in that situation? Would you have left? Or would you have been upset with the father for the abruptness and the rudeness and not sensitivity of what's going on in someone else's life? I thought that was so good, and I shared it. And I've had quite a few people share it too, because they needed to be reminded of the message that you never know what somebody else is going through. So that helps with this decision that we make when bad things happen or somebody does something that's really not comfortable or whatnot, on how we react or how we respond. So I asked my assistant, Lydia, I said, could you just do a definitions on the words response and react? And response, plural noun responses, a verbal or written answer without waiting for a response should return to a newspaper. A written or verbal answer to a question in a task, questionnaire, survey. Then his response to the question, a reaction to something. An extended jazzy piano solo drew the biggest response from the crowd. So that's response. Then reaction, reply, retaliation, feedback. An angry response. The way in which a mechanical or electrical device responds to a stimulus or range of stimuli, a part of a religious liturgy, said or sung by a congregation in answer to a minister or cantor, bridge, a bid made in answer to one's partner's preceding bid. So noun reaction, an action performed or feeling experienced in response to a situation or event. And this is kind of what we're talking about, isn't it? Carrie's immediate reaction was one of relief. His reaction had bewildered her, a person's ability to respond physically and mentally to external stimuli. A skilled driver with quick reactions. These are all definitions of the difference between response and reaction. So you have a choice of reacting, which really comes from, for me, I'm thinking about me personally, to respond favorably and to think about your response and how it's going to affect other people. There is a moment to breathe there. We have to take a moment to think about the outcome that we're really trying to accomplish, right? With reaction, it can be a knee-jerk reaction. And sometimes, I don't know about you, but for me, sometimes I'll react to something that is said or done. And it's like there is no thought process. It's just a reaction. Obviously, if you smash your thumb, you have a choice on how you react. You could cuss. A lot of people go there. Or you can say, ow, or you can go, whatever you do, right? But you have a choice in the reaction. If you think about it ahead of time, what would you do if you smashed your thumb? You can think about it ahead of time. But sometimes there's just this reaction that happens like, oh, ow, But with response, and you hit your thumb, your response is something that's thought through. And usually in something like that, where it's something really quick, there is a reaction that happens without you even thinking about it. But you can think about it ahead of time on how you would respond in any given situation. So I don't know if I'm really making myself clear, but I really am, because here's a scenario that has happened recently for me, is that in the Bible it talks about our actions, right? And we can say things. We can say, I love you. We can say, I'm sorry. And our actions might not follow the words. So they have to match, don't you? Our walk has to, our talk and our walk have to match. So if you have a person in your inner circle, in the previous show, I had talked about loyalties, and I had talked about adversity and how you really don't know loyalty until it's put to the test. So here we have response versus reaction. Is, let's say for my business, I have an employee who, I talk about attitude all the time, and I talk about that I can train skills, but I cannot train attitude. So for me, when I'm interviewing anybody, and this goes for anybody that's looking for a job or just in life in general, what is your attitude when you wake up in the morning? What are you thankful for? Because your attitude can really change when you think about all the things that you could and should be thankful for. It can change your attitude. But some people just have the attitude of entitlement, or they have the attitude of victim. And my feeling is bad things happen to good people and good things happen to bad people. That's just the way it is. But how we react and our attitude on things can change somebody else's life, and it also can change our lives. So here's a scenario. I have a person working for me, and they see things that aren't going exactly the way they think they should go. There is a positive way that we can work that through, or there's a negative way. One negative way would be to talk about a person to another person in a negative fashion, or maybe even talk to a customer about something that could have been done better. That's really not the right way to handle that situation. What we need to do is we need to cover each other, right? Because we all make mistakes once in a while. And the way we talk should be one of building people up, not tearing people or companies or situations down. We need to build each other up. So I'm going to ask you to ask yourself right now, if you can bring to your mind a situation where you had the opportunity to think in advance how you're going to handle this. Parenting is the biggest test, I think, in this department, being a parent. Why? Because I can remember back, my kids are 34 and 31 now, and they've turned out really well, and I feel very blessed and very fortunate that I have two wonderful children that have been raised to be great adults, and I think they're going to make great moms and great dads, and I'm looking forward to being a grandma, side note. But things in the proper order, of course. But in parenting, what I realized is that, if your child, let's not call them kids, your child is 5 years old. If you threaten to take their keys away, is that really going to affect them at 5 years old? But it definitely would have more impact at 15 or 16, wouldn't it? So when you're looking at disciplining your children, you're always looking at trying to think ahead. Okay, if this scenario happens, for instance, they don't meet their curfew, you say you want them home at a certain time and they don't come home at that certain time. That can happen, and it does happen. And so what is your response going to be? And it is a response because you're thinking in advance. Your reaction for me was, if my son was late and he didn't call me, my reaction is he in a ditch somewhere? Is he okay? And my heart rate races, my blood starts to boil, I'm upset, I'm worried, all this thing, it's happening. I can't help it. It seems to be out of control. It's a reaction that happens with my body because of my thought process, right? Have you been there? If you haven't and you're a parent, you might get there someday. And I'm telling you right now that the best thing to do is to have pre-thought out disciplinary action for whatever could go wrong. And hopefully it doesn't. But if it does, what are you going to do in that case? You need to have the consequence meet the crime. So, A Mindful Difference, Respond versus React by John Mertz. And this was something that was on the web in March of 2013 on leadership. And react in action. When people react, it seems to be defensive. We seem to be at a disadvantage. We are uncomfortable with what is being said or done, and we react. In our reactions, our emotions take central role. The hair on our neck stands on end, we feel our stomach turn, our face heats up, and our defenses are on red alert. You can get the picture, right? And all of us, at one time or another, have experienced this, I'm sure. We know reactions when we see it. In fact, some people on the other side will intentionally stoke those fires, especially when they know we will react. Okay, husbands, wives, that's the biggest one right there. We know how to push those buttons, don't we? They know if they poke, we will coil up and be ready to react in a full way. There's a downside in reacting. We let emotions without reason drive us forward. We lose control. Reacting is sporadic and emotional. The upside may be passion. But our passion needs to be centered on purpose, not an unexpected, unproductive stimulus. That is so true, isn't it? I love that. It's just perfect. Okay, so here's the other. Respond in action. On the flip side is respond. There is still an external spur to our response. Responding, though, is more thoughtful. Like I said in the first half of the show, responses contain reasoning. The difference may be this. Responding is guided less by emotion and more by logic. Responding may be passive in nature as we are going second in a series. However, a response is more active and it can change the direction of an interaction. So just based on that alone, if you have a choice between reacting and responding, which one are you going to choose? And so if we know that going in, we need to take a chance. We need to take a time out. We need to take a breath. I'm going to read from one of my favorite books that I read from very often, Jesus Calling, Enjoying Peace in His Presence. How many of you out there want peace in your life? When I think about all the things that I could do and be and whatnot, and I think about having peace of mind, I think about just having a calm around me and how it feels. And what does that look like? You know, I'm a visual person, like I said. What does it look like for me to have peace in my life? Where am I? And who's around me? So I always read the date that I'm on so that I can share this with you. And here's what it says. Are you ready? It says, entrust your loved ones to me. Release them into my protective care. They are much safer with me than in your clinging hands. Boy, this is talking to parents mostly, I think. I mean, that's how I'm reading this. If you let a loved one become an idol in your heart, you endanger that one, as well as yourself. Joseph and his father, Jacob, suffered terribly because Jacob loved Joseph more than any of his other sons and treated him with special favor. So Joseph's brothers hated him and plotted against him. Ultimately, I used that situation for good, but both father and son had to endure years of suffering and separation from one another. I detest idolatry, even in the form of parental love. So beware of making a beloved child your idol. When you release loved ones to me, you are free to cling to my hand. As you entrust others into my care, I am free to shower blessings on them. My presence will go with them wherever they go, and I will give them rest. This same presence stays with you as you relax and place your trust in me. Watch to see what I will do. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons because he had been born to him in his old age, and he made an ornate robe for him. When his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of them, they hated him and could not speak a kind word to him. This is in Genesis, the first book in the Bible, Genesis 37, 3 and 4. Now, Ephesians 3:20 says, now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us. That's good news, isn't it? That he can do immeasurably more than we could ever ask or imagine. I love that. I mean, that just opens up a whole new world, doesn't it? The Lord replied, my presence will go with you, and I will give you rest. Exodus 33:14. So I want you to check yourself right now. Ask yourself some important questions. Ask yourself how you're reacting, how you're responding. If you're not taking a minute to breathe, and if you're not thinking about the outcome, that you want it to be in harmony and peace in any relationship that you're working on, if we think about that, there's people say, Sue, could you work your magic in any given situation? And there is no magic. What there is, though, is that I listen. I have 2 ears and 1 mouth, just like you do. And I listen because I want to hear the other person's point of view. Because people want to be understood. They want us to listen to be understood. So they don't care how much we know. They want to know how much we care, right? So how do you show that? But by taking an interest in listening to what they're going through and what they're feeling and what they're thinking. And I'm listening to myself right now because this person that I have to meet with, I say have, that I'm going to meet with later today, I need to listen. I need to listen because I do care. I care about every single individual, no matter who they are. I care, and I want everyone to know the love of Christ. And the only way I can do that is by showing his love, by being caring. And, not everybody understands this, and not everybody can get it. But, God knows. And I have to answer to him, right? And people might not understand what you've been through. They might not understand what you're going through. And these people need to have patience and calm and to breathe maybe. But you have a choice on how you react to these people that maybe just don't understand. I have a tendency. I'm very straightforward at work, and I'm very straightforward in my relationships. And sometimes that can come off kind of abrupt, or bold. And I think growing up for me, and we can all evaluate our childhoods and where we come from and areas in which we need to work, because we do have all work to be done, don't we? I mean, we all have areas in our lives that need attention. And, you know, it's up to us whether we're going to do the work or not, you know, and how we react, how we respond can affect a relationship positively or negatively. And so in our marriages, is there areas in your marriage where buttons are getting pushed and you're reacting or responding in a manner that would be not favorable as far as building your relationship together? I can say in mine that yes, there were those areas of unhealthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries is a whole nother subject for another day. In fact, I've talked about that in the past. And if you're tuning in right now and you don't know that I have this gold mine, I believe it's a gold mine because it's 7.5 years of podcasts. If you go to your iPhone, you can go on there and they have a podcast application and you just type in Sue Free Show and you can get 7.5 years of podcasts. And there are subject matters in there that can be very helpful to any situation that you're going through right now. And there's also the I Ams. There's a free I Ams that's 3 pages from the Bible, the Lord, what he says about you. And I highly recommend that you go on there and you download it. Just, you know, print them out. There's 3 pages. And then what I would do is I would read these every day. And I guarantee you that you will be transformed by the renewing of your mind by just reading these scriptures. They're free. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain by doing what I'm suggesting right now, and I highly recommend it. The I Ams, the new I Ams, the second title, is it is a pay program where you go on and you can record your word because it's proven that when you speak, that your mind and your soul hears your voice more than if somebody else is speaking. So if you're listening to somebody else talk, you're getting a certain portion of that message. But if you speak these words, that your mind and body hears it more. So I hold every word captive. You know, it says in the Bible that we're to hold every word captive because we have to choose our words wisely. So this is another area that we all can be focused on and be intentional, is what is it that we are saying out of our mouths, okay? If you're saying you're ugly or that you're unworthy or that you're never going to amount to anything, or, you know, if that little voice inside your head is saying that you're never going to measure up because somebody said that you would never measure up, that wasn't God saying that, just so you know. It wasn't God that said you'll never measure up because he created you for a purpose. And that purpose needs to be fulfilled. So he's giving you gifts that you can use to do what God has created you to do. And there is podcasts that talk about the gifts because that's something that I'm very intentional on. You know, when employees come in, I'll ask them what they like, what they dislike, what were they good at, because that's an indicator as to where their gifts are. And I like to plug people in so that they feel better about who they are because they're going to succeed better if they're working in their gifts. You know, sometimes people take a job because it's money. And then they're not as passionate about it and they're not as happy about it. They're just trying to create income so that they can take care of whatever it is, their responsibilities that they have to take care of. But then there's the other people that go to work and it doesn't feel like work at all. You know, there's people that are really passionate about what they do. I'm one of those. I have never worked a day in my life. I actually put in about 16 hours a day, but I'm not working. It's passion for me. It's passionate because I care and I'm challenged every day, and it's intriguing, and I'm always learning. We have to always be learning. As leaders, we have to be learning. We can't get stuck in a rut, because when you do, then it's just not a good place to be, you know? So if you're going to and fro, and it's just, you know, you don't even know how you got to work each day, and you get your cup of coffee. I get my cup of coffee, but you get your cup of coffee, and then you do this, and you do that, and you do that, and it's so routine that there isn't anything that's getting something fired up inside of you. Then find a ministry, would you? Find a ministry. Find something that just really makes you feel like your life is it matters. It's doing something special for somebody. Give. I was talking earlier about, you know, when you're at church, sometimes you're a giver and sometimes you're receiving. You're on the receiving end. And it's okay. I always felt better giving than I did receiving. I didn't want to ask for help. Is that you? Are you one of those that you kind of put on a good show and it's showtime, folks? I used to say that. I'd get in the mirror every Sunday and I'd look in the mirror and I'd say, it's showtime, folks. And I'd put on this smile And I'd get to church, and I would do what I needed to do, and I had lots of responsibilities at church, and it was showtime because down deep I was bleeding inside. My heart was just had holes in it, and I was in so much pain, but I didn't feel worthy to receive everything that God had for me. And that's a lie from the devil. So if you're feeling unworthy, if you're feeling like your life doesn't matter, could you have a conversation with your Heavenly Father, please, for yourself? And if there's areas where you're reacting versus responding and you can do better there, I highly recommend you do that, because you know what? Everybody around you is going to be happier, including you. And, if you make a mistake, it's okay. We make mistakes. I don't have holes in my hands. I don't know about you. Check your hands out. Do you have holes in your hands? Because if you don't, then you're not Jesus, right? So it means that, we will all fall short of the glory of God. It says that in the Bible. We're all going to fall short. So, that takes all the pressure off, doesn't it? But we have to try. We have to work better every single time, every single day. Let's be better than we were the day before. Can we do that? I highly recommend it. It really feels good when you feel like you're progressing, that you're getting better. At Ecola, we strive for excellence every day. Do we fall short? Absolutely. Do we make mistakes? Absolutely. But it's what we do with those mistakes. Do we make the wrong the right? Do we pay attention? Do we listen? That's what we need to do. So we're done for the day, and I am so thankful that you joined in with us today. And please share this show, would you? And one more thing. I am speaking at a speaking event, Irvine Marriott, October 22nd. It's Empower Women Conference, and I am a keynote speaker, and I would really like to see you there. I need sponsors. So if you know somebody that would want to be in contact with 200 business women, this would be a great place for you to have them come and be a part of. So I hope you join me there. I really need the support, and I just thank you so much for being a part of this show. God bless.